right, welcome back to Bayou Time, and we're having our discussion with Mayor Tommy Eschete of the city of Thibodaux and also the Chief of Police, Scott Silverii. And phone lines are open. I want to invite you to call in. The mayor wants to invite everybody to call in if you have a question or a comment regarding the city of Thibodaux. Phone lines open, 879-1231. Chief, let's continue our discussion. You've been on several times, and you had showed us some data that's been created, some crash data and things of that. What more can you tell us about that issue?
Sure. Well, and that's my agency comes to expect that we're always going to talk about data. Mm-hmm. I try to allow data to drive everything that we do. This concept of intelligence-led policing, where if you're not looking, they say if you're not keeping score, it's just practice. And I think that was Vince Lombardi. And so when you go to the public and you make yourself accountable and you say, well, we're doing a good job. Well, you have to quantify when you say those things. So what we did was immediately when I came in, I had the luxury of an on-staff analyst or a detective who became an analyst, Jacob Thibodaux, and so we started looking at past data, 3 years, 5 years worth of base data, and then we started looking at monthly averages and weekly averages, and along with that data, we wanted to be more efficient, more effective in the way we deployed our resources. The old fire brigade effect of just waiting for the phone to ring and a call to happen and everybody run over there and stomp out the fire, it's just not effective in preventing preventing crime. So what we started to do was look at the data. And it was a program that I helped pilot 3 years ago when I was at the sheriff's office. It's called DDAX. It's Data-Driven Approaches to Crime and Traffic Safety. And there's a correlation between crash areas and crime areas. And so when you start to map those two, you start to find where the overlays are, where those high instances occur. And then we take those, what we call hotspots. And then you look at the highest days of the week and the highest times of the day. That's actually the last slide. So what we were able to do was we start looking at those times, and where we assign our officers are based on those highest times and highest locations of crashes and crime. And basically what we're doing, we're making a 2-hour investment in a 24-hour slice of time. If he could go to the first one, and we could.
Yeah, Jason, I think that's the last slide the chief was saying. If you go in reverse order, I guess. Yeah,
and while he's working on that, what we're able to do is, and what it does, you have to. We call it demand management. We put 911 on the side of our cars, and then we get, oh my gosh, everybody calls all the time. I mean, you're a victim of your own advertising, I suppose. But other than just not answering the telephone, you have to come up with a way to manage demand on your time. So what we did, we became very proactive. We didn't wait for the phone to ring for this fire over here and fire over there. So we began to put ourselves in the locations where historically high incidents of crime and crashes occur. Okay. Kind of predictive policing, because folks are cognitive in their patterns and the way that crime's committed, the way you drive, and unfortunately the way they crash in locations where places are victimized. So when we started looking at these hot spots, we started to what they call cops on dots. Just an example, if you start to see a lot of crashes in North Canal and your officers are writing citations in South Canal, well, you're missing the boat. So we map all of our crashes, all of our crime, all of our officer activity, whether they're out on foot or they're making a traffic stop, affecting an arrest. Everything is mapped. So we can go back as command staff and look at where the crashes and crimes are occurring, and also where we can see where the officers' activities are. And also one of the things that we did, again, going back to the mayor's mandate that we're absolutely accountable and transparent, was we invested in it's called crimereports.com, where you can go to our Thibodaux Police Department's website or the City of Thibodaux's website, and you can download, or you go to, it's a web-based application where you can punch in your address and it'll show you crime, or you just look at the total city, drill down to where the sex offenders live. It shows you photographs and their offenses, even where the crimes and crashes are occurring, or if you want to know where officers' activities are occurring. Everything's pushed out every night at midnight. It's updated automatically to crimereports.com. Okay. One of the neat things, in this kind of technological age is with the smartphones, there's an application on your smartphone. So, I guess my teenage son would think I'm text messaging, but I'm always on this application looking where the crimes are occurring and the patterns. So what we've been able to do was just, when we started looking at where the crimes are occurring and putting our officers in those spots, we're able to diminish our calls for service. We're able to slow down the crashes and crime, which gave us more time to be proactive, to be more productive, where we can get out on the bicycle and get out on the foot patrol. And I don't know which is surprising, I don't know the data right off the top of my head, but we do have that PowerPoint where we've had over the last 6 months.
We could pull that PowerPoint up there.
Yeah, what we did, we looked at the last 3 years, the first 6 months over the last 3 years, and we took that average, and then we compared it to the first six months of this administration. And as you can see, the calls for service have dropped 3%. And 3% may not be significant in some aspects, but when you're looking at a reduction of maybe 100 calls less a month, it's really significant. Another category would be criminal damage complaints, down 29%. We can roll through. Thefts. At one point, we had a slight spike, so we rallied the troops. We started looking at data, determining where they were happening, who the suspects were in those areas, and targeting those areas. And we've been able to bring crime back, thefts back to a neutral effect. Burglaries are down 14%. The next category would be auto crashes. When I came in, I kind of got the feel where we don't really have a crash problem in the city of Thibodaux. We were averaging about 20 crashes a week. In a city of 20,000 population, Nickel State, 20 crashes a week is significant. That means somebody's running into one another inadvertently, hopefully, but it's property damage, it's insurance premiums, and we're all affected by that. So that was one of the things that we needed to affect immediately. One of the things, and I tell my analysts, when you're talking about statistics and you put something like 350%, but what we were doing was, but in actuality, that is the increase. We always talk about in academics about what they call the Hawthorne effect, and it's when people know that they're being measured and quantified and observed, they perform much better when they know those areas are specifically important to what you're watching. So we saw that for whatever the purposes was, maybe we were remiss in our DWI enforcement. And look, we're not trying to prohibit anyone from having a wonderful time in the city of Thibodaux. We just ask that you do it responsibly. So we engage in safety checkpoints and DWI checkpoints and just saturation patrol. And one of the reasons we're able to affect more DWI arrests 6 months into the program is that we look at where drunks crash and where they're arrested, and we're able to start to build these algorithms where people most probability where they travel. And then you assign your officers to those areas. And then it allows you the free time when you're handling less calls for service to be more proactive and look for impaired drivers.
And that's, even though you see the big number as it increased, but, as a citizen, you can say, well, that's a big increase of drunk drivers. You guys were able to get off the road.
That's exactly right. The mayor and I were talking last week, and I think he had a conversation with somebody, and he said, they're trying to save your life. Yeah. And in effect, that's what we're there to do. I always believe that, you're one cross the center lane from killing somebody, and the reality is you're driving, you're a potential murderer if you cross that line and you head on and kill someone or yourself. So it's critical that we're out there enforcing the impaired driving laws.
Mayor, I guess this is a good tool to help show that your citizens are being protected, and your police department's using some data and new technology to help respond quicker to issues in the city of Thibodaux.
Oh, absolutely. And to tell you that I know a whole lot about law enforcement and the statistics that Scott and his command staff employ day to day, I don't. But I can tell you the statistics tell you it's working, which was a pleasant surprise to me. I'm learning every day what they're doing and how we can attribute that to I guess, making more of the individuals we have, working day to day and at night on shift. So again, it's proven that if you can approach trying to keep the crime statistics down by targeting the areas where it's occurring the most frequently, it works. So it's a pleasant surprise to me, and I'm learning about it every day, believe me.
That's right. And then it's only been about 6 months since you were elected to office,
right,
correct?
That's
or
correct.
Actually took office.
Right, took office, that's right.
Okay, and how long has Scott been on since then?
I came in January 17th.
Okay, so about that same time as well. Okay, good. School's out of session right now, unless it's summer school, but what improvements are you doing to help improve safety around schools in the city?
Well, the mayor wanted to explore this concept of using these speed humps, these traffic calming devices. Obviously, in a lot of the school zones throughout the city, we get complaints of chronic speeders. Sometimes kids going to school or letting out earlier, or just general traffic in those areas. Of course, traditionally, the way was assign an officer there, which means writing citations and things such as that. And we want to focus as much on compliance as we do on enforcement. Mm-hmm. So we're always asking the people, look, partner with us. Keep a safe 4th of July or holiday season. So some of of we started looking at some of the innovative ways to kind of facilitate law enforcement. So realistically, can you put a police officer on Menard Street for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? I guess you could, but is it effective and efficient? Not really. So the mayor had introduced an idea of the concept of these traffic calming devices, or these speed humps. You may have seen them throughout different areas. And the idea is it's a non-invasive device that you mount to the roadway, and traditionally it'll lower the speed by about 7 miles per hour, and it's a deterrent to speeding. It's not going to cause damage to your vehicle, and we put signage up, and so those are one of the things. So he wanted to start a pilot program where obviously there's been a lot of requests for them. But so just so the city's not inundated with these 3-foot long speed humps, we're coming up with an implementation policy where the request would come in, and we would do a speed survey study, and then we would see that the request actually justifies the need. So those are some of the things. But to kick the pilot program off, we looked in the area around St. Joseph and Edie White, Menard Street, and Bayou.
Those are heavily residential areas
sure,
too. Yeah,
sure.
right.
Just some great, and then it leads over to Nicholls State University, and so we looked at some of those issues, and we tried the kind of traditional means, and we would partner up with the school administration, and they would allow our officers to go in there in the morning when these kids do these like homeroom briefings. We'd have the officers go in there, and it's like a CCTV system, and explain to the kids, look, we're asking for your compliance. These are the laws and these are the repercussions. So we use other devices such as the speed radar trailers. Your speed is this and that. So along with that, we started to look at how can we come up with a more comprehensive plan where we don't have to have an officer out there 24/7, where we don't have to issue citations all day long. So the speed tables or the speed humps were one of the devices that we came up with. One of the other things we looked at is a lot of information that comes into City Hall is like around Edie White, St. Joseph, when the folks go to pick the kids up along that shoulder right there. There's a parent pickup lane, and what was happening was, of course, they're trying to crunch in as closely as they can. But it was the feeder streets onto say Menard were being blocked, the visibility, really making it dangerous. So what we're able to do, we're able to come back in and stripe those out and give some leeway, some visual leeway for the feeder streets on the Menard. And then another problem that the mayor had addressed was Thibodaux High School down Tiger Drive. I mean, it's a huge high school.
Yeah.
Kids coming in and out, and effectively what happens is that 2-lane road turns into 1-laner. And then everyone's competing for space, and they're waiting to pick their kids up, and there's no ample parking. So working with the mayor's office, we came up with we were willing to try whatever worked. And that's one of the great things is just being innovative as we're willing to give it a shot. So we towards about the last month of the high school season at Thibodaux High was to create a barrier or an area of a 1-lane road, which kind of facilitates traffic going in one direction and gets the folks in the buses in quicker, in and out. Some of the other things that I've tasked my patrol division commander is to look at all the school zones, be it signage or painting or whatever we need to do to help facilitate a safer school zone area, and just for the sake of public safety and traffic safety. So that's been our mission over the summer.
Now, Mayor, are these some plans that you wanted to implement based upon, your own observations of, the schools in those residential areas, maybe the traffic problems that were occurring? Or were you getting some phone calls as well?
Well, we got phone calls, and again, we have with some residents said, well, why don't you just stick somebody out there 24/7 and give as many tickets you can? It'll deter the speeding. That may be true, but then you get a bunch of aggravated citizens who have tickets to pay. So, and that really doesn't accomplish anything. Again, like the chief was saying, if we can deter them by simply having a calming device out on the road that gets them to comply, that's really what we want. We don't want to write 100 tickets on a Thursday afternoon, a bunch of people speeding. We want to have something out there that'll deter them from doing it and actually kind of forcing them to comply with the law.
Because all the ticket is it's supposed to act as a deterrent.
Exactly. So and we've had since we've put them in, which has been maybe a month or so now, we've gotten a number of phone calls from individuals who live in that area say, we really like it. We like what's going on. We haven't had to be able to monitor the situation while school's been in session. As soon as they go back in session early in August, we'll go ahead and start monitoring the speeding issues out there to see whether or not they're actually accomplishing what we want to accomplish. But in the interim, the residents seem to like them. We've gotten quite a few phone calls from other individuals saying, when you come put them on my street. So again, like the chief was saying, we have to set up a procedure, a process, so that we can evaluate requests like those and determine whether they're warranted or not. And once we finish this pilot program in Menard and Bayou Lane area, we'll be able to do that, and then to facilitate the requests from other citizens within the city to see if those requests are warranted, and possibly put those in other areas.
Now, it's a pilot program. Is that something where you're setting aside just some money to get us, rather than spending a whole bunch of money, or is it a grant? Or
no, it's not a grant right now. It might be something we can look into as far as acquiring funding for them. We placed 4 of the speed humps, I think, in that area. We're talking right now an expense of about $12,000. It's not, a monumental amount, but, we want to make sure, of course, we spend the taxpayers', money wisely. So the good thing about this is we can put this pilot program in if for some reason the locations aren't the right location, or if it's just not warranted there. These devices can be unbolted from the streets and moved to a different area. So it's not like they're put there and then we have to basically destroy them to remove them. So it's a new technology that's come out. We have a vendor who does that and does that application across various places in the state, and it works well for them. So again, pilot program, like I've told some of the citizens who are a little bit skeptical about it, is that, if it's not working, we'll take them up, and we'll make sure that we go to some other type of deterrent so we can get our residents to comply.
But from what you're saying, the cost really isn't that significant at all. When you talk about, you don't have to hire another police officer to put in front of each one of these places. You can utilize their efforts somewhere else.
Well, and again, like I told one of the other citizens, that keep some of your dollars in your pocket because you're not paying tickets and we're not writing them out there. So I think once all the statistics come in, we're able to evaluate it. I think we'll find that they are going to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, and at a minimal cost.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll take another break, and then when we come back, we'll wrap things up regarding other issues in the city of Thibodaux. We'll take a short break. When we come back, more tonight on Bayou Time.